It's like that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And then I saw this thing that was like hurt people, heal people, save people, harbor people.
Oh my God, heal people. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, I guess I'll introduce the podcast now.
yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kaylee Ashland, and I'm here with Parker James today. This is What It's Like podcast. I don't know. I started this to talk to working class people that live with mental illness, that want to make a difference in the world, people that I look up to. This is a big one for me today. So, welcome. Thanks for checking it out. Song is by Slow Mo Drags.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, they're really awesome. If y'all have a chance to go see them, definitely do that. It's so fun. Such groovy music.
I dig your groovy too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here starting the podcast because fuck it.
Why not?
Because you supported me and people support me for some reason.
You have the vision. Let's talk about mental illness.
Yeah, let's talk about mental illness. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your story.
Oh.
I want to talk about where you came from.
Okay. So I grew up in such a confusing house that like literally I don't even ever know how to answer this question.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family that I think a lot of people probably can hopefully relate to this, but where image was so important and everything inside was so fucked up and broken and confusing.
Yeah.
But outside, because it looked so pretty, it was like totally ignored and totally normalized. And for saying, shit seems real fucked up in here, like I very much became like this black sheep of my family. And I don't know, man. I don't know where like mental illness and trauma and the percentage of what of those things equals what or whatever the case is. But I can definitely say that I don't think the household I grew up in helped whatever is up with my brain. And so like I live with a mental health diagnosis and I got that when I was like super young and that was really confusing because it like I essentially grew up in institutions.
Yeah.
So I barely know who I am. So to introduce myself right now and like where do you start in your life? Like I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out.
It's a weird one.
Yeah. So like, yeah, but I mean, I'm a kid who, oh man, I went like the sex, drugs, rock and roll route when I was like a kid. I remember the very first time that I saw like a punk rocker and it was at a Target. Yeah. And I remember seeing this girl and I remember seeing like the way that people responded to her.
Yeah.
And like, dude, there was like
The
people
confidence.
pulling their kids away from her. Like, you know, like they were scared of her, man.
Yeah.
And as like this little, like I'm a little kid, right? Like I was like a real shrimpy kid. I did not play sports. I was not like an athletic kid. And I was really short and like really skinny. But then like my head was real big and my eyes were real big and my fucking mouth was real big, you know? And I never felt like powerful as a kid. And as a kid who's like abused, you feel so powerless and so weak and everything becomes fucking scary because the people who are supposed to take care of you and protect you are fucking scary, you know? And so when I saw this girl, and she's not big, right? But she was fucking scaring people, you know? And I was like, I want to be like her. When I grow up. And so I went home that day. Yeah, right.
People are scared of you.
I love that.
Like, don't fuck with Parker.
I love that.
I love it too.
And I hope the people who should be scared of me are scared of me, and then the ones that I'm like protecting are like,
oh yeah, like I love bringing up your name.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Is it effective?
I'll talk to Parker. They're like,
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so proud.
I don't want to go through all that because she won't stop.
I won't. Yeah, no, and I won't either. And like, I bore really easily, but like I'm super stubborn and I'm a Leo.
Yeah.
So like, I know I'm right. And I know I'll outsmart you. So like,
You're
I'll
right.
keep going. So, oh, good. I'm glad that people know that about me. That feels good. That feels good. Wow, that was such a full circle moment just now. Aw.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Do you think like So you were diagnosed at a young age. Do you think like you were born with a mental illness, or like where do you think it came from?
So I get stuck in this all the time.
Mm.
And I've had this conversation with a lot of peers and a lot of like clinicians and just like in my circle, a lot of my friends work in this in mental health and at all kinds of different levels. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to like hear from all these people all the time about what they think about this. And like, man, I don't know. What I really think for me personally is like, yes, I think that I was born differently in my brain.
Mhm.
Yes. I actually believe that some of that potentially was caused by abuse that was happening to my mom while she was pregnant with me. And I've like kind of dug into some of that research, and that
Mhm.
was like really interesting. And it also helped put some things into perspective
Wow.
with the way I see my mom,
Mhm.
actually. Um, and so I always kind of sit in this weird space where like I do think that I was born differently.
Yeah.
I do think that from a young age there are certain things I can point back to. Like for example, like I didn't talk for the
Mhm.
first like 2 years of my life. And now I mean I don't shut the fuck up. But like for 2 years, like and
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was like making like normal like mama dada sounds or
Yeah.
anything. Like I didn't say anything and everyone thought I was like mute or something.
Was your first words like a full sentence?
It was.
What
Do
was
you want to know
it?
what it was?
Yes, please.
Me, mine, leave me alone.
Me, mine, leave me alone.
Yeah. Like, my
Wow.
sister tried to take my little coin purse away from me, and, like, that's what I said, and I've actually gotten, like, sent to the principal's office at school because,
Mhm.
like, you do those projects, like, All About Me, what were your first words? And I would put that down, and they, like, sent me to the principal's office because they thought I was being a smartass, and they, like, made me call my mom and, like, confirm, and my mom's like, "Yeah, she's just always been that much of a pain in the fucking ass." Like, that was her first words. So, yeah, like, that and then I had some, like, picking stuff that I used to do even, like, in the crib that is still a thing that I do where, like, if I start to get anxious, I, like, pick the skin, like,
Mhm.
on my face in this weird way,
Mhm.
and that to me seems like maybe, these behaviors or whatever where, like, I'm doing things in the crib until I'm bleeding, um,
But if you're,
but
like, literally
then
abused while you're, like, being
yeah,
formed, like I mean, because we see how much it affects, like, children, even, like,
yeah,
children before memory, it
yeah,
affects them.
pre-verbal trauma is such a
So, like,
thing.
if you're being formed in the womb and, like, already exposed to, like, it not being safe,
Yeah, it's
like,
wild.
that's supposed to be the one safe place you have.
The safest.
The safest,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that that had a lot to do with it, and then again, just, like, the environment that I was in did
Yeah.
not help at all, and so it's hard to say how like I said, like, how much of what it is,
Mhm.
but I think it's definitely a strong combination of both.
Mhm.
What is your take on that?
On
Like, are you born with it with this?
Um, I have a weird take on it.
I
I
can't wait.
have a weird take
I'm
on
so
it.
excited.
I don't know, it's, like, something I've been digging into a lot, because I feel like, especially doing this work, when you meet a real peer, somebody with lived experience with mental illness, like, or in it, like, you recognize each other.
Yeah.
You recognize each other, and I don't know. Okay, so this is what I've been talking about a lot recently. Like, if you get into the concept of, like, love, you think of I've probably talked to you about this already, but kinda all ties together. The concept of love is, like, you think of anybody you love, it's all different.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
single person is different. Every animal, whatever, like, anything you love, it all is one word, but it means something different every time. So, if you, like, think about that, then love is just a connection you feel with that other human being.
Right.
And, um, so if you think about that, that, like, never goes away. That connection, that recognition of the connection never goes away. Just the fear that it's gone causes, like, grief and,
Yeah.
like, heartache and
That shit's real.
people to be stuck in the grief and the depression. That's what causes it. The fear that it's gone. But if you can, like, get to the core of that, I mean, I know you've lost people too.
Yeah.
So I try to think of that with the people, like, I've lost. And I think, like, people with mental illness are more, like, sensitive to love.
Ooh.
Like, I don't know, and I think that that's like the spiritual thing we all feel.
Yeah.
You know, that connection is
Yeah.
a spiritual thing we all feel. The reason we think that there's like so much out there.
Well, yeah, and when you think about it, like, so, like, some of the people that we work with, and I look at people, like, when they're at their lowest, right? Like, they're at their lowest, whether you call that their, like, sickest or their lowest point, whatever, when they are gone from reality, like, they don't understand who you and I are right in front of them,
Mhm.
but yet they still have that love and compassion that you're talking about, and you can still see it. Like, they're in their own planet of what's happening around them, and yet I watch them pick something up for their peer who dropped it,
Yeah.
and totally not even reality based, but they just do something for other people because I think that peers see peers no matter what.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
when you experience such a trauma,
Mhm.
like losing someone to suicide,
Mhm.
I had been through so much trauma at that
Mhm.
point in my life. I had been through sexual abuse, trauma, like severe, I mean, verbal and physical abuse in my household. I was molested by a teacher when I was 7 years old, dude. So it was like I wasn't safe in my home. I was
You
seriously
weren't safe in
sexualized
your
by my
room.
father.
You weren't safe in your home.
No,
You weren't safe in your
I went to
school.
school and I was being sexualized and abused there and like all these things.
Jesus.
And then I felt like I had like turned this leaf in my life, right? And
Mhm.
like, dude, I looked like a totally different person. And I just went into this place of like, I am not that person.
Mhm.
That shit never literally even happened to me.
Mhm.
And I just lied about every part of my existence and who I was
Mm.
to just become this new person. And so in 2015, when Glenn died,
Mm.
I was like, this doesn't happen to me. This happens to
Mhm.
people like who I used to be.
Yeah.
This happens to like fucked up people. Like this
Yeah.
happens to broken people. This doesn't happen to people with money and people with good jobs. And like,
Mhm.
fuck you. Yeah, it does. You know? And like,
Mhm.
despite having experienced all this trauma, that was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And when you explain it to people and they like are like, oh, it is sad. You're right. It's a
Yeah.
bummer. But like, I cannot explain losing someone to suicide.
No.
And
Nothing like
there
that.
is something so powerful about being able to look at you right now and be like, but like, I know you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When I'm surrounded in a world that has no idea what I'm fucking saying.
Yeah.
And they could want to so bad.
Right. And I feel like that, like with peers, like on so many levels, but that is like the deepest one right
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
Like that is a knowledge that I was talking to my friend about it who had lost someone to suicide, and she was explaining it like it's like when that happens in your life, it's like all of a sudden, yeah, it's just it was never on the table before, and
Right.
now it's on the table.
Yeah.
Anything's on the table.
Yeah. If that can happen, anything
Anything
can
can
literally
happen.
happen.
But which is so fucked up, but it's so beautiful
Yes.
because then you start realizing like what the fuck matters. And
Yeah.
that's why I think like I think we've gotten to this place with it. Like I relate to it with you where it's like, okay, now it's time to fucking take action. That shit
Yeah.
can happen. That and I can live through that. What the fuck can I do good?
Yeah. It makes you this weird level of fearless
Yeah.
that like, and I do think that you can use your powers for good or evil, right? Like I always am telling people, like what we have is a fucking superpower.
Yeah.
But dude, you got to choose, like actively, intentionally
Actively,
choose to
dude,
use it
because
for
it could,
good.
yeah, you can easily become that hysterical, mentally ill person.
Yeah, and it's like so
Because
hard.
you're
And as
so
like a
passionate,
professional
you know you're
advocate,
right. Yeah.
I know I'm right. I
But
know
like
I'm
this
right.
fucking bureaucracy and you can't just
Yeah,
people won't listen.
it's
And it's just
so frustrating. But you're right. How you do that
yeah.
is so, it's like the biggest part of it because
Yeah.
what you're saying could be everything. But if how you say it is so distracting and you just make everybody's case about like, well, you're just a crazy mentally ill screaming person
Yeah.
and like being an advocate, it's a dance, man. It's like
Yeah.
an art form,
Yep.
you know?
It's dude, everything's a balance. Everything balances
Yeah.
out, you know? I think like that's like one of the things about mental illness and trauma and stuff. It's like I feel everything I have gone through has like made me the person I am today. And like taught me to see the world in a different way and get these little like pieces of I don't know, more beauty, I guess, more
Yeah.
appreciation, like being grateful I woke up today, being grateful I can sit on a park bench and like feel the wind and
Yeah.
like
It forces you to be present a little
yes.
bit, you know, like
Yeah.
knowing that you'll never get it back.
Right.
And you can beg and you can borrow and you can try to, you know, all that stuff. And like you
Mhm.
won't get it back
Yes.
though.
No. All you have is all you have is the moment right in front of you.
Yeah.
That is all you have. So it's like all this stuff kind of gives you this knowledge, I feel. And I feel like it's hard because so many people maybe haven't gone through what we've gone through, so they don't understand what we're saying.
Yeah.
That this that's not what's important. Like helping each other is important, loving each other is
Right.
important. Like
Right. You
having
don't
a
have to get all the way where I came from,
Mhm.
but like have some compassion for people. Because and it's also true that like you don't know who has lived experience and who's experiencing what and what's going on. I mean, I
Mhm.
choose to say out loud,
Right.
I didn't always,
Mhm.
you know, and now that I do, like I find so many other people who've like they'll come talk to me about things or whatever. And like
Yeah.
it's just wild.
Yeah.
And you start to really like you always hear like, oh, well, mental illness doesn't discriminate.
Right.
But then you're like, oh no, like
It doesn't.
it doesn't at
Mhm.
all. And that's one thing that I think like a stigma, you
Mhm.
know, and that's why I think it's such a bad thing, man,
Yeah.
because it prevents people from getting help.
Right.
You know, and like there's so many barriers already that exist. Like mental health is not viewed the same way that physical health is. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I do think that there are some peer advocates
Right.
out there who actually perpetuate that in some way because we want to be so different and we want to be so established and we want to be like over here. But at the same time, we're saying we don't want it siloed and it becomes very convoluted. But at the end of the day, regardless of where we want it to be, we're not in that place where mental health is as valued as physical health.
No.
And so there's all these
And
barriers.
physical health is shit here too.
And
You
that's
know?
and listen,
Yeah.
that's not good either.
Mhm.
And so we're less than not good. And when someone finally reaches that point where they're willing to ask for help and then they can't get it, like it's just such a fucked up thing.
Yeah.
We may as well just hand that person a fucking weapon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's so broken.
It's so broken.
And I think that stigma has so much to do with that. Is we
Yes.
have this idea of what mental illness is and what it looks like. And it's so frustrating that people like cannot understand that like, yo, Hannibal Lecter, that shit is fiction.
Yeah.
Like that's American Horror Story is not real. I don't know how to
Yeah.
tell you this.
Right.
You know, and it's like so hard for people to see that. And I don't understand why.
Well, there's such just a fear around it, but I feel like if there was more of an acceptance and like I've said with the mental illness and grief and trauma, like I feel like I have gotten a different knowledge about life
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you believe in, you know, and I mean any religion, you think like they'll say like, you know, God has a plan, you know, everything happens the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
You know, there's something like that in every religion.
Yeah.
So if you believe that, then you should believe that people that go through a lot maybe have a little more knowledge.
It's
Maybe
totally true. And even if you can't see it that deeply,
Yeah.
anybody as you grow and you experience, you learn. Period. So someone who's had this experience has learned and they've been able to
Then
grow,
now we can
learn
help
something.
change
Yes.
it. Change this experience for other people. Like
Yeah.
so people don't have to go through what we went through or
Yes. I'm like, oh, you don't want to do that. It was gross back there.
Mhm.
Go do something different, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm. Yeah, here's some hope. And look, I did it.
Yeah.
Look, I did it.
Yeah.
You could do
And
it
I'm
too.
like, dude, if I can do it,
Yeah.
you know?
It's hard, dude, but I'd do it.
Yeah, and I
I
think
could.
that's the other thing is like recognizing I think there's a very unrealistic expectation when it comes to what recovery looks like. And I think that it's a problem for so many reasons when you start getting into like the forensic mental health component and all these
Mhm.
other things. But I think that this unreasonable expectation that recovery means it totally goes away. I think that that is another barrier that
Mhm.
people then think when they relapse or they fall down that, well, I failed and then now it's over. And
Mhm.
it's like recognizing that, like, dude, I still live with all the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for whatever reason, my brain will randomly just be like, you know what you want to do? Kill yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea
Mm-hmm.
where the fuck this comes from. It just happens.
Yeah.
And then I have to recognize, like, oh, that's that shit that sometimes happens. It's
Yeah.
totally irrelevant. It doesn't mean it goes away. It means now I can differentiate that
Right.
from me
Right.
and deal with it differently.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it all just goes away. And I
Mhm.
think that when we do that to people, we set them up for failure.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
that sounds too hard, so I don't even want to try.
Right. It's wild to think of. Yeah. I mean, it's wild to think of recovery without peer support. Like, I can't.
Ew, I know.
Like, well, and I feel like the more community I get, the more, yeah, just community and people, like, the more honest I am, the more people I connect with, the more, like, I can feel like I can say when I'm not feeling well,
Oh, yeah.
the better I am. The like, it happens way less often now than it did a year ago, you know?
Aw.
But I've created over the past year this, like, beautiful community, through work and other friends that I'm like, I feel, like, safe, you know?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, all goes back down to safety
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't be vulnerable without that, like,
Yeah.
period. And you
Yeah.
cannot ask for help or receive help without
Mhm.
existing in vulnerability.
And connection.
Yeah.
Connection is so healing.
Yes, I've actually only learned that very recently.
Mhm.
Like, for a very long time, I've had that kind of, like, lone wolf mentality of, like,
Mhm.
on the surface, it seems like I have of friends or, you know, whatever. And not to say that I haven't, right? I have, but I've always been very guarded. And it goes
Yeah.
back to that, like, identity that I felt the need to, like,
Yeah.
invent in order to move forward in my life, and recognizing that there's so much value in just showing up as you are
Yes.
and having someone be like, "Oh, fuck yeah. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Like, I can hang with that."
Right.
And the more that I do that, the more that I, like, get to know myself, because, like, I didn't establish that as a kid,
Mhm.
you know? And so it's like learning myself and allowing myself to grow and, like, validating the fact that I have grown as
Yeah.
a person. It's so
Right.
cool.
Yes. Yeah, I've been thinking about that too recently, just, like, in hindsight over the last year, and, my relationship with, Bob, Daddy Bob. Shout out Daddy
Oh my
Bob.
god.
Love you, Dad. I won't share his last name, so it's cool.
Oh, that was nice of you.
Uh,
I was gonna
he
say it, but I
yeah, but
won't.
we just have, like, a great friendship, like, a great connection, and I think, when we started working together, it was, like, just, like, being able to go to someone every day and check in and be like, "This is how I feel, this is what's going on," because, like, it's scary. It was scary, you know, um, starting a new job and being vulnerable about who I am, coming to work authentically, and talk about that, like, work-life balance, but it's like, this job is my life.
Exactly.
It
It doesn't turn off for me.
No, it's me. I am myself all the time, and it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard, and, like, to have somebody that I had every day just to be, be that vulnerable with, and it's like that help. It's help.
I could swear that you guys have known each other for, like, 55 years.
Dude, a patient asked if we were married the
I
other
know.
day. He was like, "Y'all just have a lovely connection."
I know. Yeah, but and I think it goes back to
Yeah.
that peers see peers, right? Like,
Mhm.
there is something so powerful
His
about that.
family, like,
Yeah.
your family, like, it just when I recognize somebody that gets it, it's that community is so important, and I
Yeah.
think we know that, and it's like, "Okay, you need me, I got you."
And I also think that that comes from a place of, like, I know that if you are asking for help, it's because, like, 100% you need
You
help.
need it.
Like,
Yes.
period.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
like, yes, I'm gonna deliver on that.
Yes.
You know when someone who's been through shit says, like, "Oh, hey."
I can't handle this.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, shit, it must be real fucking heavy."
Yeah.
You know?
Let me help you carry that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that we, like, have done such a good job of creating that and honoring that in each other, and that's
Mhm.
fucking cool, man. That's a
Yeah.
rare gift,
It
actually.
is. Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it's like, I think on the levels that we understand each other, like, I was thinking about it the other day, like, I've never felt any negative emotion towards you.
Really? That's so weird.
Have you felt any negative emotion towards me?
Hold on, I want to answer honestly.
No, please do, honestly. Let's dish it out.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I've never
Wow.
felt like, oh,
That's
what is she talking about? Or like, you know, like, I don't agree with that. Or like, I've never thought anything differently than what you like.
that's kind of weirding
I
me
feel
out
like
right now, to
we've-
be totally honest.
I know. Like, because I think of anybody else and it's like, anybody else, literally anybody else, yes, I've had like an annoyance or
Yeah.
like even a moment of me being just frustrated.
I'm constantly
But-
annoyed by everyone all the time.
Right. Yes. And they don't get it.
Well, and also I really appreciate just the communication, right? Like when if you just like communicate directly, it's amazing how much miscommunication you can avoid.
Yes.
And that's like groundbreaking information.
Yeah.
For some people.
Right. And I think we know how to do that.
Well, not everyone can be as awesome
Yeah,
as us,
no,
you know? Like at
not
the end of
that.
the day.
But it's like we always shoot
Not
it
everyone's as
straight.
traumatized as you and
Yeah.
I are.
But what a gift. Like,
Yeah.
like how much have we been able to accomplish because we can directly communicate.
Oh my God.
We have the same goal. And like literally, I think of if I'm like having a frustrating day and people might frustrate me easily. When I see you, I feel calm. I feel safe.
Oh my God, I've never had a calming effect on anyone ever a day in
Yeah.
my life. No, but I get that because I think it goes into like feeling like I know you got it.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Yeah.
think that unfortunately we've tested that.
Mhm.
And when you're someone who's tested it, like you know how fucking strong you are.
I
And so
can do anything, dude.
Yeah, dude.
You need me to go do this wild
Yeah.
thing right now? I fucking
And then
got
it just
dude.
happens. It's like magic.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like knowing values. you
Yeah.
know? Like integrity being like a big value.
Yes. I don't think that's valued enough in our like society.
No. Yeah.
I feel so old saying that.
yeah.
It's not valued enough in our
Mhm.
society. But it's true.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get why, actually. Like everyone's full of shit all the time. Why would I trust anybody?
hmm
If like I'm not going to believe that they're doing the right thing, so I'm not going to do the right thing or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, ugh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Say
Yeah,
what you
'cause
mean, mean
it-
what you say, be who you are.
But I don't know. I just try to reframe it. I
To
mean,
what?
Just,
I want to
whenever,
hear your insight.
whenever people are doing stuff like I don't understand, like being selfish or like being shitty or being angry or whatever, I just try to like think like maybe I should be grateful. I don't understand what that feels like.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I find myself a lot of times I'll say, "Look, I don't think I understand that perspective." And I'm like, you know what? Though? I don't want to.
I don't want to.
Like, I don't care.
And that's for all the haters
Don't
out
do
there.
that.
You want to hate, dude?
Yeah, who
I'm
ca-
sorry you feel the need to hate. I hope you find love in your heart.
Can you imagine wasting your time?
The energy.
I know.
The energy. Dude,
That's
I'm
like mine.
tired.
I'm doing
It's
other
hot.
stuff.
I'm tired. I don't have energy to hate,
know.
dude.
There's enough. There's like enough.
Yeah.
And I think that we can change that. We just
Yeah.
have to make a choice to.
Right.
And then you do. And it's
Mhm.
magic.
Right. Love is magic.
Aw.
Like that's what I'm saying. Love is magic. Love's the spirituality. Love's the thing you feel with your God or whatever. Like that's the connection.
Yes.
And I think that's something like I appreciate now about my ADD is like if I don't care about something, I'm not gonna do a good job at it.
I love that for you.
I'm not, and I will hate it. Like and I, like so if something doesn't like tickle my fancy, is that the saying?
Oh my God, yes.
If something doesn't tickle my fancy, then I'm like I'm not doing it. And I think that's what I started cutting out in my life.
Oh,
you know?
100%. Yeah. Or like doing shit because you think other people want you to do it.
Yeah, or like feeling obligated. Like
Yeah.
having to go
Well,
s-
I'm still working on that.
yeah.
Actually, I'm pretty good at that personally. Like on a personal level, I'm really good at it. I'm just professionally really bad at it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard though. It's like but it's other people's lives and it's like the most vulnerable people's lives.
Yeah.
It's like fuck, yeah, if I'm going to have the choice to help or not help that, like
Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
know what
help.
it feels like to be locked in a psych hospital and feel like forgotten about and,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
abandoned.
Yeah.
I don't want people to feel that way.
No.
you know?
Mm-mm. I know, and it's man, just sometimes I just go out there and I just like feel how overwhelming the need is, and it's so
Yes.
exhausting. Like
Yes.
every single one of these people need their own personal peer support
Oh,
specialist
1,000%.
just to hang out with them all the time.
I know. And it's just people could want to get it so badly,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I did used to think that unless you were a person with lived experience, that you were incapable of being empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really fortunate to come across somebody who really challenged my thought process and my perspective in that. Um, and for the first time, I felt like somebody was empathetic without having had lived experience. And I was like, oh, wait, so that's a thing and people are capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
while it's different, I still think that that was like a very cool thing. But
Yeah.
there are so many people who just like don't give a fuck.
They don't. Yeah. And that's what I think. Maybe those people that are empathetic, like, were born like us, but they like had like really nice, loving,
The
supportive,
circumstance, nurture versus nature.
yeah, and like no trauma. You know
That's
what I
also weird
mean?
when you meet somebody who's never had any trauma.
Yeah, but they like get it. Have you
Yeah.
ever? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. But I think I was, yeah, talking to um my partner who is literally like that. He just gets it. He just knows what's important.
Yeah,
And
that's an
like
interesting.
it's yeah, it's like but he had like his parents are obsessed with him.
Aw.
Like they love him so much. And not to say I know my parents loved me. They did, and they did the best they could, but it was like I wasn't there was 4 kids. I was like I felt more like a something they had to deal with,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it was just chaotic and like my brother was abusive. Um so I didn't feel like safe at home or like I I felt annoying. Like I felt like I was always
Like you were
annoying.
annoying? Like you
Yeah.
were being annoying
For existing.
for being a child?
Yeah. And like my brothers probably did that to me too, you know?
Yeah.
You know, brothers. But except for Corbin, shout out Corbin.
Actually, can I say something about that really
Yeah.
quickly? So you have really challenged my perspective in this
Mm.
because you said something one day. You say so much profound shit, Kaylee. Um, about being annoying for like when a kid's just being a kid,
Mhm.
and it appeared to be annoying, and that was like the thing about like having ADHD as a kid
Mhm.
is like you're whatever, but then
Yeah.
you're just annoying to everyone.
Mhm.
And you said something about like let the fucking kid be a kid, you
Right.
know? And so I like thought about that because as a parent, it's such a hard line. Like I want my kids to be protected and feel safe and all that other shit, you know?
Mhm.
But like I don't want them to be these like entitled,
Right.
whatever. But I was like, where is the line? And so me and my husband talked about where's the line of letting your kid be a kid and then kids are being annoying, kids are being whatever. And so we had this whole conversation
Mhm.
as like parents about where we stood on it and how it really felt. So this weekend, yesterday morning, I was trying to sleep in. My husband walks out into the living room and I just hear, "Did you color on the TV? Is that a permanent marker?" And then my husband walks back into our room and he shuts the door and he just stood there. And he just like stood there looking at the door. And he's like taking this really deep breath. And he just walks back outside and he's like, "You may not watch the TV right now." And then he came inside and I was just like, I didn't say a word. And I was so impressed with him
Mhm.
and whatever. And so that night we started talking about, we both have a very vivid memory as being a child, drawing on shit you weren't supposed to draw on, and then
Right.
like getting annihilated.
Annihilated, dude.
And yeah. And
Mhm.
like his version of annihilated and mine are
Mhm.
very, very different on the
Right.
spectrum.
Right.
But still, we have these core memories as children. And I was like, dude, that's just one of those things that kids do.
They
Every
will
single
always do
fucking
it.
kid. And so at
And it's
some
like
point, you have to just expect, like, check the box. Okay, they did that.
yeah.
Don't freak the fuck out,
Yeah.
but let them know it was wrong. So I
Yeah.
actually really appreciated, like, that you were sharing that stuff.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think just understanding they're a kid, yeah. Yeah, I didn't feel okay being a kid. It was like, need to act a certain way or whatever. And um
You're in the middle of all your siblings?
yeah, so I like a older brother, um, and then I had 2 younger brothers. I have and then like a older half brother that I didn't grow up with. But
I'm sure he really appreciates you referring to him as the older.
I was saying it like
Oh, okay.
like older, like
Not age-wise.
no, like
Okay.
Chris and then John. Sorry, John. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of boys.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's why it's like I also think I don't get girls sometimes because they'll be like,
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
yeah, talking about like makeup or whatever. I don't know. Whatever girls talk
Oh,
about
I can't
shopping.
believe I've never.
Sometimes girls will be like sitting together just talking about shopping and like literally. And I'm like, whoa, they do this.
That's from the movie Clueless.
I just quoted a movie.
No, I'm just
Oh.
saying I thought that only happened in the movie Clueless.
Yeah. No, girls do that. Have you heard it?
No. Well, no. I was gonna say maybe my 14-year-old, but no.
Do you hang out with girls?
I hang out with you. I don't hang out with fucking anybody.
I'm not a girl, dude.
Actually, I hang out with I don't hang out with
Yeah.
anybody.
I think I figured out. So like, me and Corbin are in the middle. He's like me but a male, and I figured out. I think I'm like 55% female, 45% male, and then he's 55% male, 45% female. Together we make one male and one female.
Aww.
We're like it's almost like we're twins, but 2 years apart. But
It's like a yin yang situation.
Mm-hmm.
Down with that.
Yeah. So I think I
don't know. I grew up with sisters. Although my older sister is 7 years older than me, and my younger sister is 7 years younger than me. And
oh wow.
yeah. So we didn't like, I mean, we
Weren't
grew up
close.
together, but like we didn't,
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super close with my older sister.
You are now.
Yeah.
Does she
Yeah.
live here?
My older sister and I have always been super, super close as kids. She lives in Arizona right now, actually. And it's been very cool because over the past couple of years, we've like are finally at a point where we're like talking about some of the shit from when we were kids. And it's so insane to me that it's taken this long.
Yeah.
But like we've finally started like acknowledging like, yeah, that was real fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Like that was really crazy.
Yeah.
That Dad like, you know, freaked out in the middle of a fucking Blockbuster and like broke everything in sight and then we got kicked out. That was wild, right?
Yeah.
And we're like,
Right?
how have we never talked about
Yeah.
this? But yeah.
Yeah.
But we weren't, I guess, maybe super girly.
Yeah. That's a cool connection with sisters. Like, cause my brother, I mean, it just will never be like that with my brothers. I feel like I try to dig into the emotions and stuff, and it's just different. Like, especially like mother-daughter relationships, and like,
Oh, that's
that's
also
just like,
true.
it's just very, you don't get it unless you have it. And boys are just more simple in that way.
They are simple.
They're simple. You know what they want. And mostly it's just to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not
Which I'm
worry
down
about
with.
anything else. And it's like, yeah, I get that. That's
Life
cool.
is too short to worry about everything
Yeah.
else. And we could all just die.
We should
So,
all just be simple boys.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. No.
I could see some challenges there.
Yeah, I know. But that's why I like finding the people that like talking about real shit. Because that's like where change happens. And that's when it, you know, like, you know what's valuable in life. I guess that's what I mean. I don't get people, male or female, that are just like artificial, you know, that are just
Right.
like things matter.
Oh, I totally get that though.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Because I lived that for like 2.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so that I didn't have to feel my feelings.
Yeah.
And that felt way better.
Yeah.
So like maybe you got to look past that.
Mm-hmm.
Got to look underneath that, see what's going on
Yeah.
over there. But yeah, no, I think that so many people live in that space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's hard, I guess, not to some capacity.
like
There's so much
zombie.
pressure. Yeah.
I was there for a bit too. I think it's like you have to kind of, when you go through something so traumatic, you kind of have to go into survival mode.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
And that shit's deep.
yeah, like I remember talking to like my therapist the day my stepbrother died, and I was like having a full-on panic attack, and then she goes, if you need to, she's like, take a deep breath. She's like, okay, if you need to eat, eat. If you need to use the restroom, use the restroom. If you need to smoke a cigarette, smoke a cigarette. If you need to drink water, drink water. And she was like, just think about that. Like, think in tasks. think of
Yeah.
what you're gonna do next.
It's like all your brain can handle.
And it like pulled me right out of the panic attack and then just into this like kind of numbness,
Yeah. Autopilot.
autopilot. And I think I stayed there for 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I had little outbursts,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I lost it probably a couple times. You know, digging my heels in
Yep.
about something, because everything became so personal,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah, and I slept a lot. I just fucking did what I had to. Um, and then yeah, I think you have to go there so
Yeah.
that you can survive because it's just too much to feel at once. Like
Yes. When your
that,
brain just like almost cushion, it's not like a choice. It's like
yeah.
your brain fully cushions you
Mm-hmm.
and like protects you, I guess, from your brain's like, you just can't experience this right now.
It's
So
too
we're
much.
just going to shut it down.
Yeah, we're gonna
And
shut it
it's
down.
bizarre the way that happens because it
Yeah.
is completely involuntary.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, and you have to be there and yeah, it comes out sometimes and then maybe I got like frustrated at times. I was like, I don't feel like I can't feel
Mhm.
anything. And I missed feeling, but I felt so like numb, which it felt better than the pain, but like, fuck, then you don't feel, it's like, what am I living for?
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, I'm not feeling the down heres anymore, but I'm also not feeling the up heres. So I literally have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And
My
that's such
house
a
could burn down and
weird.
I don't fucking care.
Yeah, no, I would probably just like sit there.
Yeah.
It was such a scary time.
It's like, that's real depression, I think.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah, I think grief depression is another kind of depression,
right.
you know?
But it's like this belief that nothing matters, but I know I have to keep going. Like I can't, especially when somebody like commits suicide. I feel like that was something, living with mental illness, I've always like kind of thought about, played with.
Mhm.
But when you see it and it's fucking earth shattering,
Mhm.
it's reality shattering, and you feel it, it's like, I could never do this to anybody.
Right. Yeah, I admired when you say like that it took the
It
option
took the
right
option.
off the table. And I was like, dude, I admire the shit out of that.
So I just had to keep going.
Mhm.
I had to keep going. So I just kept going. And then one day I'm just like, okay, I need to do more than keep going.
Ooh.
You know?
Do you feel like you experienced all of the stages of grief?
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. There was like a lot at the beginning. It was weird.
Mhm.
Like, I think like so okay, here goes back to the love thing. So that love is a connection, right? And if you connect with somebody, I feel like when you get it, when you're empathetic, like you could sit there and somebody could cry to you and you might tear up just about what they're saying because you can
Yeah.
feel the connection. So you can feel their pain, right?
Yeah.
So it's like somebody you love dies, you have that connection. It's like I could feel where he was. Like I could feel like the darkness in his head.
The
Like
depth of it.
the the sadness, the darkness, the demons, like I could feel it. That's really intense. I'm sorry about that. But
yeah.
that's
It
what we
is
talk about.
intense though.
Yeah.
Like it fucking is
It's
though.
intense. And I think that's like the little bit of like psychosis I've experienced.
Mhm.
What we see as what doctors call psychosis.
Mhm.
And that's what I think brought it on for me. And that's why I think it's a sensitivity. I think like empaths, people that are empaths have like a sensitivity to that love connection,
The energy of it.
the energy of it.
Mhm.
And like where I can literally feel when something's not okay with somebody.
Mhm. How weird was it when you said 2 days before a really traumatic thing happened, "Hey, I can feel something in my body. I just need to, like, take a rest for a second because I feel like I need to get some rest because something really bad's, like, going to happen." You said that on, like,
I
Tuesday or
know.
Wednesday, and that's when I was like, "Oh, just take the time, whatever." And
Yeah.
then
I'm so
Friday,
glad I listened to myself. That's the biggest thing
that
about
was
it.
wild. When I
Dude,
got home to text you that night, I was like, "Bro,
dude, I tripped myself out too with it.
that
But
was so weird."
and I texted you too because I think you felt it too.
Yeah, it
Because you
was
kept
like
saying
this
like how like,
looming the
yeah,
other shoe's about to drop,
yes. Yeah.
and then it did.
That's what I'm saying. Like people don't think like all these things about mental illness, but it's like I think we see
Well,
things
because,
that
like, dude,
and
it
feel
sounds
things that
crazy.
it does, I
It
guess.
sounds fucking crazy to
Yeah.
say, "I feel in my bones that something bad's gonna happen." Like, that does
Yeah.
sound super wackadoodle.
Yeah. But why? Because that's what fucking spirituality
Because
is.
'Cause we've
That's what
taught people to
fucking
be scared of things they don't know.
I
I don't
know,
know.
but that's what religion is. That's what
Yeah,
trusting a God is. That's
yeah,
like that's the whole thing.
yeah.
So why can't we believe that people might have some connection to something that we don't understand? Why do we think we know everything?
Exactly. We think we know everything.
Yeah.
The fear of what I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, and the more I have just listened to myself and allowed and then have like a community in my life that makes me feel safe to listen to myself
Yeah,
and say things like that.
yeah,
Um, the more I listen to myself and my intuition and like what I feel is right, the better my life is. The more aligned, the more signs I get, the more things just line up. I was talking to Alex at the thing this weekend and my first peer support specialist was
that
there.
was so cool.
Mhm. And yeah, it was just really, really cool connecting in that way and seeing how far I've come in the last how old am I?
Yeah, was that such a full
Like
circle
14
moment?
years. Yeah.
That's so cool.
And Alex was like, "How do you feel about that?" And I was like, "Man, I just feel like it's one of those other things in my life that just tells me I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." And I was like, that used to freak me out, but I was like, it happens so often now. Like it really does.
Yeah.
Things just line up. They line up and I just feel on the right path. And I feel like I want to help others find their path,
Yeah.
you
But when
know?
I tell people, like, when you do the right things happen,
Mhm.
and everybody always kinds of laughs at that because it sounds so cheesy, and so, like, I do get it. But I'm not saying, like, do the right thing means, like, you stopped at the stop sign when there was no cop.
Right.
Like, fuck that, that's not what I mean. I
Mhm.
mean when you do what's right by you.
Right.
Like, what is your moral compass, dude?
Right.
You
Right.
know? And, like,
What are your
it's yeah,
values?
what do you care about?
Yeah.
Not what you think everybody else wants you to care about, not what the fucking court is telling you you need to care about right
Right.
now. That's not what I'm asking you. Like, what I'm asking you is, like, what do you care about? What do
Mhm.
you wanna do? And,
Mhm.
like, are there these other things and boxes you have to check to get there? Yeah, that's kinda what it is, man.
Yeah.
But, like, when you decide who you really are, what you really want, and then when you realize that you literally have the power to mold your life into whatever you want.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
whatever you want, you have the choice to do it.
Yeah.
There is
Choices you make
nothing
every
that
day
holds you back.
affect it. Yep.
Yes. Like,
Mhm.
for so long, it was like, well, if you don't go to college, you're not gonna get a job that pays really well. And I was like, fuck you. I became a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
No mortgage broker has a fucking education. We are some of the most like degenerate people
Yeah.
who just want to like have a job that allows us to like drink all the time. And so we did this, and you make a lot of money doing it, and you get to go party and say it's a networking event. Like, you know, I didn't have a fucking education. I didn't, whatever. You just go do it. You
Right.
find what you want to do. I wanted to work in mental health. And they're like, well, you're not a PhD. You're not a
Mhm.
social worker. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I know what those people are actually experiencing. And then I'll gain the knowledge that you're going to teach me, by the way, so that I can come in and fix your fucking system
Right.
so that these people can have it better.
Right.
And so I just went and I did it.
Yeah.
You can do that. You just figure it out and you make the path. But if you don't even know the direction you want to go
Right.
and you're so busy listening to all this noise, or you're worried about, like, well, if I say that out loud, what are people going to think?
Right.
Like, when I left the mortgage industry and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go and be in mental health, they were like, are you okay?
No, I'm not.
Should we be worried about you? Like when you say you're going to a hospital, like as a patient, like what do you mean? You know, like because that sounds weird, but
Yeah.
I'm in my dream job. I'm doing
Right.
exactly what I want to do, exactly how I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just say, this is what we're doing, everyone
Mhm.
goes, oh, okay.
Right. Dude, and that's what I'm saying, like, about the power of losing someone to suicide creates the confidence and the knowledge that you can just fucking do things.
Oh, I would have never done this if
This
Glenn
guy
had not died.
my brother fucking shot himself.
That's crazy.
You can do anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
No one's going to come out and
yeah.
stop you. No one
Yeah.
yells cut in real
No.
life. Like,
Yeah, like you can do anything, man.
yeah.
It's a weird superpower you get from that.
Yeah.
And it's a weird way to find gratitude in the knowledge of that.
Yeah, but what else are you going to do with it?
What else are you going to do with it? There comes a point in mental health and in grief and everything where you have to make the decision to live.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, if I'm going to live, how the fuck am I going to live?
Yeah.
And I don't want people going through what I went through. I want people having what they need.
Mhm.
I can work and make a difference in my life doing that.
Yes.
If decisions I make every day can affect people today and from years to come. I
Wow.
mean, you think of all the people that have helped you, right?
Yeah.
The little nuggets of love in you.
Aw.
The little connections you
Yeah.
have with those people that impacted you and how you can like pay that forward
And you feel it forever.
and feel it forever.
Like that's
what
the
I'm
really
saying.
cool
The love
part.
does
Yeah.
not go away.
It literally, you're exactly right. It's just like that's what you're built of.
Yeah.
That's what you're made
That's
of.
what you're made
cool.
of. You're made of, yeah. I had a ex-boyfriend get married recently, and people were like asking how I felt about it, if I was okay. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm okay. Like obviously it didn't work out between us.
Yeah.
But I think the saddest part is like knowing that means like I'm probably not gonna like see him much or like
the dynamic
connect with
changes
him
or whatever.
as much. But it's like I still hold on to that love. Like he was, like a decade of my life, like my best friend.
Yeah.
Was with me through some of the hardest parts of my life and helped me through my survival mode.
Wow.
He helped
And
me.
that's a low place too. Like that's
It was a low place for both of us, I think. But I have so much value in that.
yeah.
And I love that him and his family made me the person I am today.
Aw.
And I recognize that, and I know I can always hold that like love in my heart.
Yeah.
Without any like bad feelings about it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know that it's a part of me. Any connection any love you feel with anybody, that person will always be a part of you.
Yeah. Like Glenn's not here and I know that now.
Mhm.
It took me a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I did experience denial. It took me a minute, but
Yeah.
like now that like I totally understand that and know that and whatever, it is very interesting how my feeling of love has not changed. That has been very weird to
Mhm.
me. That didn't go away, it didn't change, it hasn't shifted. And there's even times where like I legit am like full-fledged having a relationship because I'm just like, well, now I'm mad at you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just remembered that you fucking did that shit and now I'm mad. But
Right.
like the love never goes away, which is
Right.
very cool.
Yeah. And I think like I lost one of my good childhood friends a couple months before I started working there. She died in the hospital I was born in.
That's so fucking creepy and
Yeah.
weird. And she died in the
She
hospital. you
died
were
in the
born in. Okay,
hospital
wait,
I
just to
was
make sure I
born
understood
in.
that correctly.
Yeah. And we just like we met when we were like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And she was so unapologetically herself. She always fought for like the underdog. Like I remember like somebody with like special needs was getting bullied at school and like she like pushed that person. Like
Fuck yeah.
she always, and she will scream and fight and like she's always just been unapologetically herself. And I never felt safe to be myself
Mm-hmm.
until I found her.
Wow. That's such a gift.
Yeah, she and I mean, we had a crazy ride. Did a lot of bad shit, crazy shit. Uh, but she was my first peer, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, my first
Oh,
real peer
yeah.
that like I could connect with, and so I've always had a special bond with her. Like, she was like my sister, and I mean, yeah, her mom says that too. Like, I, I love her forever. So I just always had this love for her, no matter what, no matter where we were or what was going on, or even if I got mad at her. Like, I just always absolutely loved her,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And when she was dying, she was in the hospital like 3 months, and I came as much as I could. And one of the so first I had this dream, or she had this dream, and she called me a month before she went in the hospital, and it was like, she was like, "Kaylee, I had this dream. You and your dad and your brother were at the edge of my bed, and they were like, um, you gave me." They said that they gave me this heart to go through all the things that I'd been through, my dad's death, my brother's death, all of that. They had given me this heart, and then it was then they said it was her turn to be strong. So I gave her the heart. And then a month later, she was in the hospital with a heart infection. And I just like dropped everything. Her mom
Wow.
called me. I dropped everything. I didn't know what I needed to do, but I knew I needed to be there. Um, and she was like unconscious until that day. They thought she was blind. When I walked in there, she had had 2 strokes. When I
Oh
walked
my
in there,
God.
she looked at me and she started crying. And then I held her hand and I said, "I'm here to give you the heart. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?" And she squeezed my hand really tight. She
Wow.
hadn't moved before then. And it was just like, I was like, "Okay, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now."
Yeah.
And it was like a rough 3 months, and I didn't know what that meant because she kept fighting, and I didn't know if it meant like, oh, she's gonna keep fighting, she's gonna pull through. I
Hmm.
always saw her pulling through. I always saw so much for her. And then it just got to the point, it was just like she was tired, dude. And the last time I went there, I like just held her hand and got to tell her everything she meant to me. And then she passed like a week later. And then I just started getting like all of these things in my life. I got the job. I got like met my partner Eric. I met all of these people that I like
Your
connected with.
tribe, it's your
And
circle.
I literally saw like a medium, because I was like, I feel her connection so strong. Like
Wow.
I could just feel that love so purely and so strongly. And she was the first thing the medium said to me was, she was like, "Somebody's with you all the time right now." And then she was like, "You helped her feel safe to transition. So she's like helping you to realize all these things about life."
Wow.
And like I just believe that, because it's like, if I can have a connection with somebody that's not physically here,
Hmm.
if I can still feel that connection, then that's got to mean something. There's got to be like
Yeah.
some knowledge in that. There's got to be some like beauty in that.
Well, it's so wild to me that we don't have answers to that. Like, and I never thought about like the afterlife or anything like
Mhm.
that, literally until like Glenn died, and then I became super obsessed. And I was staying up all night
Mhm.
and reading and like going on these like deep dives of rabbit holes of like what happens in the afterlife, you know? And I've thought about that so much and just where that is, and like they always like the energy. Where does the energy
Yeah.
of that person go or whatever?
Mhm.
It's wild.
Yeah.
'Cause you hear stuff like that, and it's just like,
Okay, so I was watching Interstellar the other day.
which one's that?
Interstellar?
Is that the
It's got
they're
a
stuck in space or something like that?
yeah, yeah. Oh, who's the guy in Interstellar?
Who's the guy in Interstellar?
Fuck. Oh, it's a Matthew McConaughey? Yeah. Yeah, Matthew
Okay, then never
McConaughey.
mind, we are not talking about the same
Uh,
movie.
yeah. But he like, so like Earth is like dying or whatever, and then he goes on a space mission to like um, find a livable planet, and he they get to this like other dimension or whatever. They like go through a
Oh,
wormhole. I don't know, but there's like one point in the movie where they're talking about the only thing the lady is talking about the only thing that transcends space and time, because they're on like a different time wave. They're like,
of course.
yeah, like
Ugh.
the only thing that transcends that is love. They're like, why do we
Aw.
still feel this love? They're like watching videos of their family and stuff, and like that's the only thing that transcends this. So if you think about that, it's like, okay, we could get even weirder with it. If it transcends time, like
Oh.
these people could be in a different realm
Yeah, that's
that
the only word I can
I
think
don't know,
of.
like they could in a wormhole somewhere that
Get?
we haven't found yet. They could be there, and like that connection could just be transcending,
That's why you still feel it.
and that's why you still feel it.
I really need to watch this movie.
And then like, do you feel like is there certain people you meet, and you're like, oh, we're from the same planet.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're from the same planet.
Yes.
Yeah,
1,000%.
me and you are from the same planet.
Oh, yes.
And that's all.
I'm just waiting for the mothership.
I don't know what that means. It's just people are different. I don't know.
Yeah, but when you see your people, you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah.
And it's just like I just think there's just it all goes in together. Like, love is you can't create love out of nothing. It has to be
That's
like a
true.
connection,
Yeah.
And I think you can pull from that connection a lot. You can love a lot of things, a lot of
Well, and I
different
think
areas.
being able to experience like the depth of that connection,
Mhm.
like, okay, so I swore to secrecy that I would not ever share this, and so why not
Oh,
share it on the
yes.
podcast? But okay, I know that this is like the most unbelievable story ever, and I'm okay with that. But I
Yes.
was literally with someone, and one of my people, right, like
Mhm.
sees my brain, sees who I am as a human, and I had this really weird experience where we were like laying there in a bed,
Mhm.
and I like got this super weird, like I saw something really weird in my brain. And so I said it out loud. And he was like, that's what I was just thinking.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yeah.
that's not funny. And he was like, no, that's how I see my thoughts.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he was
Yeah.
like, no, you're like, he was like, you're freaking me out.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so bizarre because it just like was an image that came into my brain and then perfectly
Did me and
described what
Eric
he
do
was
that
thinking
stuff
of. And
all
I
the
was like,
time? Or we'll have the same song stuck in our head or something?
yeah,
Or
it's because you're on a wavelength,
or
man.
like we've started just singing a song
Ew.
like at the same
That's
time. Like, what?
creepy.
But it's happened so often that it's like now that it's like I'm starting to get
Oh, maybe that's
You
when people
know?
say like, "Oh, you finished my sentences."
Mhm.
Oh, it's like
Mhm.
that deer in headlights
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
all
yeah.
over again. I just learned what something meant.
Yeah. I don't know. I got nervous.
Are you?
Do I not look awkward? I feel like the most awkward thing in the world.
It's
Do I
just.
always look awkward?
I think yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
It's endearing, yeah.
Oh, so much.
Good.
Yeah, it's very disarming.
Yeah.
You know, that's why people. I think that's why that's the difference between the way that you advocate and the way that I advocate. But it's effective. But like
Because
it's disarming a little bit.
I'm disarming.
Yeah. And people are like, "Oh, okay," and then you're just like, "Whatcha?" You know, and then they're like, "Oh shit, wait,
Here's
what
the fucking
happened?"
truth, bitch.
Yeah.
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 Here's what I think.
No, so
for
it
real.
works.
But like in a humble way, I guess.
Yeah, you're significantly more humble than I am. Yes.
I have to be. I feel like anytime any ego creeps in for me, life is like, do something awkward.
No, that's good.
Do something vulnerable. You know, I don't know. Be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, you'll do like body shit too.
mhm.
Me and Helena call that body people.
What does that mean?
It's like people who do stuff with their body. Like, you know, like I talk with my hands, right?
Mhm.
Like I talk with my hands. But like you'll like do stuff with I can't even do it.
Dude, it's like
that.
I
I
don't
can't
know.
even do that. Like I couldn't even
I
do an
know.
impression
What
of you
is
right now.
that?
Well, so you know the body
I'm like
keeps
soothing
score.
myself.
Yeah. My MMA coach was the one that initially pointed this out to me, but he's like, dude, your shoulders are all kinds of fucked up.
Mhm.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he used to call me Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Mm.
because I'm just like super, super stiff in my shoulders and like, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. And in my stance, it's like very weird boxer, rock'em sock'em robots. And it's like a trauma thing. But
Mhm.
like, you do body things. I
Mhm.
cannot do that. Like, if you asked me to get, like, I was saying the other day, like, I could not just start screaming.
Mhm.
Like you
'Cause
and
you're, like,
Gary were
scared
saying, like screaming. And
because
I'm
you're
like,
scared to get there.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think I've learned how to, like, uh I don't know. Honestly, I've been getting more angry recently.
Oh, God.
Well, the heat for one, and then
Oh, the heat makes me so
fucking
grouchy.
gaslighting at work and
Yeah. I actually was going to text you on Saturday because I'm putting up this 8-foot by 8-foot balloon arch that I have put up 105 fucking times.
Mhm.
Everyone always makes fun of me. And it's like, oh, it's your thing. It's the balloon thing, right?
Mhm.
So, like, everyone knows I've done this a lot. I cannot tell you how many fucking dudes stopped for unsolicited fucking advice to be like, well, you know what you should have done?
Mm.
Shut the fuck up.
Mhm.
Like, I don't need your help. I'm good. I'm okay. I didn't ask for your help.
Yeah.
And like everything I was doing, it just felt like, well, why don't you do it like this? Well, why don't you do it like, why don't you shut the fuck up and let me do what I'm doing?
Yeah. Or, like, just well, I guess you were denying help too.
Yeah, but like, because I can do it better than you.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
you know, but like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's so fucking annoying.
Yeah.
And yes, like the constant gaslighting. Like, I had a clinician in a meeting in front of a bunch of other people tell me how somebody with lived experience would feel about language that I wrote with people with lived experience.
Mhm.
And I was just like, how
It's so
dare you?
wild, like, the things they focus on too.
Yeah.
It's like not well, it's like we know what's most important. Just treat them nice. Just be good and nice
Yes.
and give them what they need.
Yeah. Don't
Eh
be an asshole.
Yeah. And they're like, "Well, what about this
How can
little
you have an
thing?"
opinion on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you haven't even seen a patient in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't even whatever. All right. I think that's it. Yeah.
We've talked about our mental illness enough today and our trauma history.
No. That's episode.